Hello, Tony Novak. Thanks for taking a quick look at the third video of a series I'm putting out as a test to test the waters for possible revitalization of a continuing professional education course that ran in the 1990s. It was called Current Events and Compensation and Benefits Planning, and it was accredited by the Pennsylvania Bar, the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, and the Pennsylvania CPA. So I ran it back then in the 90s. It was a live presentation. If it gets going again, it'll be a video program, but no decision has been made. I'm just trying to feel the public reaction and see if there's interest in such a thing. The format was very simple. It was to take a current event, a couple of news items for that week or that month, and connect them to some historical perspective in law or in history. And the purpose was just to give us a better grounding in analyzing and processing the current news. So in other words, not to be repeating what's on the news, but give a different perspective that wasn't covered. So there's been a lot, obviously, this week, and a couple of things came out just yesterday. So the first thing I want to mention is this Healthcare Market Certainty and Mandate Relief Act of 2017, a bill introduced yesterday that got virtually no attention in the wake of the much larger tax reform bill. But this is a bill introduced by Republicans. It appears to have bipartisan support, but the fact is, if you Google it, you'll find that there's very little coverage. I put out a blog post. The American Hospital Association put out a press release, but there's virtually very little in the last 24 hours. The point is that this bill, from an actuarial point of view, strikes me as odd, but it just might work. It basically ties the health insurance subsidies for the poor, allows Congress to authorize them in return for removing the tax penalties for both the individual and employer mandates for health insurance. Now, if you think about it, those things are not connected, and yet they might have enough political momentum in that political connection, if you will, to get this thing passed. So it'll be interesting to see where that comes. I wish I could provide some kind of reference or actuarial comment, but there just doesn't seem to be any. That's one thing. The other point that I'm noticing in the last really 12 hours since this last evening, when other accountants had an opportunity to look at the tax bill, it shouldn't surprise anybody that many industry associations are against this tax reform bill. I don't know of any industry associations that have come out for it, and among those industries that are opposed, you can guess are tax preparers, because simplification is not something that they tend to welcome, although I don't think it's going to wind up being much of a big deal. But the point is that those tax preparers and tax professionals that work in the individual market and do a high volume of low price tax returns have already been aware of the vulnerability of that market from computer and online services. But yesterday's tax bill underscored the need and the shortage of professionals to offer small business services that are tied with compensation plans and tied directly to payroll. So what I'm seeing and the comments that I'm getting in online conversations that I'm having are already tied to the fact that the accounting industry is very likely going to be looking for opportunities to expand compensation and tax benefits planning and moving away from tax preparation services for individuals. So more on that as it develops. Thanks for listening.